Peter, if this tax is introduced, it will tie the government's revenue base much more closely to the commodity cycle. Is that a good thing? And B, under the government's plan, this $9 billion a year of revenue is dedicated to recurrent spending. So is that a good thing?
You see, this is the other side of it. The intellectual justification of a resource rent tax is it's a non-renewable resource which is once only. And for that reason, you're entitled to take a much higher proportion because the resource will be gone. Now, if you want to run that argument, I would say there's a corollary. That if you're saying we need to get a fair share for future generations of a resource that can be depleted in this generation, you would have locked that away for future generations, is my argument. This is what the Norwegians did with their sovereign wealth fund. It's what the Chileans do with their copper stabilisation fund. If Rudd and Swan had come in and said, the proceeds of these resource rent tax will be put in the future fund and locked away for future generations, I think they would have been on much stronger ground. But what in fact they've said is the revenue from this resource rent tax will be used for recurrent expenditures. You know, we need to tax this, you know, once only resource. Why? So we can spend it on recurrent expenditures. People are going to say, what's the point of that?
Peter, as I was just listening to you then, it occurred to me that if you'd stayed in Parliament and replaced Malcolm Turnbull as the leader, you'd be now a red-hot favourite to be the next Prime Minister. With the benefit of hindsight, do you have any regrets?
Look, Robert, I was in politics for 20 years. I was the deputy leader of our party for 13 and a half. John Howard was always on the eve of resigning. You can't live your life, you know, on hold, which is the situation I got to. You know, would he go at 64? Would he go after the 2004 election? Would he go at APEC? Would he, you know, in the end,
out almost.
In the end, you know, the public said, we'll decide when he goes, and voted him out. And you know, I loved my parliamentary career. I had the opportunity to serve longer as Treasurer than anybody else. You know, I was the deputy leader of my party. I think it would have been in the interests of my party to have tapped John on the shoulder when there was still time to do it. The party didn't do it, the electorate did it. They tapped him on the shoulder. They not only threw him out of office, they threw him out of his seat. After 13 and a half years in that position, it was time for me to do other things. You know, life is too precious to live it on hold.
It wasn't apparent then, but it's now apparent that you could almost certainly be Prime Minister.
I thought it was apparent, you know, in 2004 and even before that the Liberal Party needed a change, and I think I was proved right.
Do you regret not tapping John Howard?
Well, I did tap him. I did, twice.
Oh, okay, right. But
on 2 occasions I went in and I tapped him.
You didn't do a Keating, though, and resign.
Well, you know, I mean, I could have resigned, I could have tried to bring the government down, you know, I didn't think that was the right thing. And I know, I went and tapped him, being no misapprehension.
You didn't get the support?
As directly as I'm speaking to you, and I think your viewers will agree, I can be a very direct person. And let me tell you, I don't think there would have been any mistaking the message that I gave him. It was after the 2001 election, after the 2004 election.
Can we go back to the resources tax and the budget settings? The RBA seems to think it wouldn't be a bad thing if we had less business investment in resources at this moment in time than we might otherwise have. Can you have too much of a good thing when we're talking about business investment?
Well, look, you know, I'm not commenting on whether the RBA does think that or not. I have seen some reports of statements that have been made. But nobody in their right mind in the modern world would say that we would like to reject investment. Nobody in their right mind would say that. Every country in the world, as we speak, is competing to bring capital in. Because capital brings investment, investment generates jobs, investment generates profits, profits pay tax. Every country, you can go through North America, you can go through Europe, you can go through Asia, you meet a finance minister, every one of them will be trying to bring capital into their country. And if there's a country that puts a flag up and says, no, not here please, not us, you know, you'll be laughed out of international forums. And if there's anybody in Australia that thinks that today, honestly, they should go and get psychiatric counselling. And if anybody around the world hears that Australia is saying that, they'll laugh themselves silly. They'll say, right, the Australians have gone out of business, good. We'll pick up the slack.
And you can manage the pressures on the economy from the bottlenecks.
Yeah, well, you know, investment brings its own problems, and a surge in the terms of trade will bring other problems. The problem that it will bring, of course, is inflationary problems. When the terms of trade started picking up, when I was Treasurer, started picking up in about 2004, you know, that brought the problem of inflation, and we had tightening of monetary policy in the lead up to the 2007 election, which didn't help us very much. Along comes the financial crisis. You know, the world turns down, inflationary pressures go out of the system, but the terms of trade now are higher than they were in 2004, higher than they were under the coalition government. It's great for this government. They'll reap the revenue until the cows come home. But the problem will be inflationary pressures. And what this government won't have, that we have, is it won't have a flexible industrial relations system. Now, a flexible industrial relations system allowed you to get big wage settlements in the mining industry, which was profitable, without the risk that they were going to flow back through into less profitable areas. Now, this government's new industrial relations system won't give them that opportunity. And so on a terms of trade, very high terms of trade, with a inflexible industrial relations system, what you have to watch out for here in Australia, the next problem will be inflationary pressures. We've had 6 rate rises already. You know, for an economy which is, you know, running still quite a big deficit, you know, inflation is still quite high. And you don't have to think about that, which is why I think our fiscal position should be stronger.
We have to wrap up. Peter, but can I just ask, while you're a Treasurer, you were quite disparaging of high salaries in investment banking and so on. So I wonder, now that you're joining investment banking, whether you're going to put a modest cap on your salary, say about 200,000?
Well, I'd be going back into politics if I was interested in that cap, Alan.